Welcome to this video on exploring the banjo. We're going to have a look at the G major scale single string style. So we're going to look at how we can play the G major scale on one string. The G major scale fits really well on the open tuned banjo because the banjo is tuned in open G. So we'll take a look at the scale and how to play it on the third string, the G on the banjo. We'll take a look at how the scale is constructed, and we'll try a couple of small exercises just to help start exploring how we can use this and how it can help you understand the banjo. So if we take a look at the banjo, the tuning, for a start, we know that from the first string we have the D, and the second string we have is the B, the third string is a G, the fourth string is a D, and our fifth string is the high G. So those notes in that tuning give us a G major chord. So you can hear when we strum the banjo, and that's the standard tuning. So if we take a look at how we can play a G major scale all on a single string, we'll be able to see the formula, the way the scale is constructed. So let's start out playing the open G string. So from our first note, what we want to do, and this is standard for every major scale, we're going to move up a tone. And so from that note, a tone is equivalent to 2 frets on the banjo. So if we take a look from the open G, we'll then move into the A. So we've moved a tone from open G into the A. From our second note, we also move another tone to the third. So from A, we will move into B. So we're up to the 4th fret. So following those two first movements, the next movement we need to make to continue in the scale pattern for the major scale is a semitone, and a semitone is equivalent to 1 fret. So if we move now from the 4th fret into the 5th fret, we get a C. Let's just keep moving through. So from the C, we move up a tone to the D. From the D, we'll move up another tone, which takes us to E. So right now we're sitting at the 9th fret. From here we move up another tone to the F sharp at fret 11, and to finish the scale off we'll jump to the 12th fret, so a semitone, and there's our octave. We've reached the G, the next G up in the scale. So let's run that again. We'll go nice and slow. So from the open G, up a tone to the A, up another tone to the B, up a semitone to the C, up a tone to the D, up a tone to the E, up another tone, gets us to the F sharp. Then we have a semitone to reach the octave, the next G. So that formula again that constructs the major scale is a really useful pattern to memorize because we can use that for any major scale. So if we wanted to play a D major scale, I could do exactly the same thing starting at D, following the same pattern. So tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So I just played a D major scale all on that single string on the D string. Our first example being in G, obviously will suit our open G tuning. So let's run that again. So we've got from the open G a tone higher, another tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. It's well worth memorizing that pattern. As I mentioned, it can be used for every major scale. As long as you know where you're starting, what root note of the scale you want, you could then use that formula to construct the major scale on the single string. We can then expand it out and move it across multiple strings, but for now, let's just take it under the single string idea. So one thing that you can use, once you start to see these notes and understand the notes that are within the scale and the choices you can make, if you're trying to work out a melody or write a song, for example, it limits the choices because we're not going to have, usually, in a major melody, you wouldn't have, say, the C sharp. We know that if we reach our scale through the pattern, we've got a C, we have a D. So it doesn't mean that those other notes can't be used, and a lot of the time they are. But if we're just sticking to the major scale, at least we know some choices that we have to make. So let's take a small example, a nice simple example of how you might start using this scale. So we'll take a really simple melody, a melody that everybody's going to know. So we'll try the first small part of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So I'm sure everybody's heard this one. So what we're going to do are find the notes within the scale, and then from there expand it out, maybe put a small roll to it, or even put a claw hammer pattern to it. But once you know the melody, and you can find, well, once you know the scale, it will help you find the melody. So let's have a go through. I'm going to play the first couple of notes in the melody of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So the first small part of that melody took us from the open G. Then the next interval jumps straight up to the D. Then we went a tone higher to the E, and then back a tone to the E. Now, maybe you just want to pause this for a second because you may be able to find the next few notes in the melody. So I'm going to show you in just a second, but maybe take a chance just to see if you can nut it out for yourself. Some of you might find it easy. Sometimes you might need to experiment and tinker a little bit with the notes of the scale and figure out which way the melody is going. Okay, so hopefully you've worked those out, or at least given it a try. Let's move on and finish the first half of this melody. So the beginning of the melody again was open G, up to the D, 7th fret, to the 9th fret, the E, back to the D. Now from here, we're going to continue moving down the scale, following the scale as we went through earlier. So from the D, we move down a tone to the C, down a semitone to the B, down a tone to the A, finishing on the G. So there's the first half. So once you're able to start to find simple little melodies for a tune, you can then expand that out into the style that you like playing, or a style that you want to try it in. So, for example, we could claw hammer that melody. Or we could put a roll to it. I'll just grab my picks. So the roll that you might choose wants to try and emphasize the melody, but we're just going to choose a simple square roll, or the alternating roll. So being on the 3rd string, I'll start with my thumb on the 3rd string and just play an alternating roll. So just taking that simple roll, the inside-outside roll, the square roll, whatever you want to call it. And the fact that all the melody notes fell on that third string using our single string scale, you can hear how that pieces together. Now, of course, we can take that scale and apply those notes to the other strings, and more often than not you do. But just as a simple exercise to start with and to understand this major scale, keeping it to a single string, keeping it moving along all in the same direction on the one string, can be a nice way of trying to understand it. So, just to summarize on what we've spoke about here, so the major scale, and in this case in G, starts on the open G string, and then using the following pattern, we can construct the scale. So from the G, we're going to move up a tone, then another tone, a semitone, a tone, a tone, a tone, and a semitone. So then in reverse we'll have this. Giving us the notes of the G major scale. And remember that the way we constructed the scale can be used for any major scale. Just have to start at the root note of the key you want to be in. And that understanding of the scale also applies to other instruments too. So if you picked up a guitar and didn't know how to play guitar, you could take that same scale and start on one of the strings, and even if you started on the third string of a guitar is a G, and you could play the same scale. Or on a mandolin, if you started on the fourth string of a mandolin, that's a G. And so you could play the G major scale and all straight away start to tinker and find some simple little melodies based on that understanding. Then you can expand it out to the other strings. So if you follow the links below the video, you can go visit the website, which has a chart available with some of this stuff we've been talking about. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the major scale, the single string version of the major scale. I would recommend experimenting, finding some melodies. So find some simple melodies that you might try to work out yourself, just using that single string idea. Okay, thank you very much, and keep picking.